Next speaker, Iñigo Olalde. He has a degree in biology at the University of Navarre. His PhD thesis was carried out in the Institute of Evolutionary Biology in Barcelona. And he did a postdoc stay in the Harvard School of Medicine, working with Richard Race, who in the field is probably the main researcher in the world. He works with DNA and reconstruction of human populations based on old or ancient DNA. Right, he's now working at the University of the Basque Country. He's a researcher at the Basque. And the reason why I'm introducing him is, well, because there was a bit of a coincidence here. As Javier said, we collaborate with the DIPC in the organization of this part of the events of Passion for Knowledge. I am the director of the chair at the university, and as it happens, we invite to NOCAS sessions people that are not part of our research group, and then they said, oh, if you know someone that could be interesting, well, you can invite someone you know. And I'm also chair of Jaquiunde, and we have just admitted Iñigo Olalde as a new member. So this is why we have Iñigo Olalde today here with us. I wanted to introduce him to you. Without further ado, the floor is all yours, Iñigo.
Bueno, muchas gracias.
Thank you very much indeed. Allow me to begin my talk with a couple of classical quotes by classical authors talking about the traditions of peoples that the Romans found in Europe. And the first one is by Julius Caesar, who says that among the tribes in southern Britain, it was very common that, for instance, some siblings or a father and a son would share wives, and so the children of the wives who were considered to be the children of the first one who married them, although probably were not their biological father. And the second one is by Cassius Dio, and it's about a conversation that between Argentocorso's spouse, a tribe in Scotland, and Julia, who was the spouse of the emperor. And so Argentocorso's wife said, we abide by the requirements of nature better than you, Roman women, because we have sex with all of our men. This is a very interesting conversation. We don't have the answer by Julia Augusta. It would have been nice to have it. These are just two examples of quotes that give us information that is biased and incomplete, of course, about how the societies were organized in the past. We have written sources up until 5,000 before Christ, being optimistic. But what happens in the rest of our history as species? How were societies organized in prehistory? We don't have much information about that. We have some hypotheses, but we don't have certainty. And in the past 5 years, this is starting to change, thanks to an incredible technology that allows us to do things that used to be unthinkable. What can we do thanks to this technology? Well, we can go to and look at archaeology remains and analyze all the elements like teeth and bones with 20 to 30 milligrams of each. It's enough. We get DNA from them. We sequence that DNA with massive sequencing technologies, and then with biocomputing tools, we analyze the billions of sequences and strands we find, and we establish the biological relationship between these individuals. And we do this. We bring them back to life to analyze their relationships and see how their society was structured. And let's see an example I've been working on. Hasselton North is a Neolithic finding in southern England, that burial mound dating from 3600 BC. It's a very large surface, as you can see, and archaeologists found two chambers, one that would be open from the southern side and another one that could be opened on the northern side, and they found thousands of bones. They estimated that around 40 people had been buried in there. it was a burial mound. You can see a picture there, and we wanted to know who had been buried there, were they relatives or not. And what did we do? Well, what I just told you about. We took 75 samples of bones and teeth. We recovered the existing DNA, and we could get genome from 35 individuals. When we analyzed that genome, we realized that 27 out of the 35 individuals were close relatives. And we placed them on a tree that would join them all together. And these are the Hasseltons. Hasseltons are very important because it's the first large family that we've been able to get from prehistory. It's the first time we could study with a high resolution the social patterns of a prehistoric family, in this case dating from early Neolithic times. And I'm going to look at the tree. Squares represent men, circles women, and then we have individuals that are there in black with the dotted line, and those are individuals that we haven't information about, but we know that existed. And I don't know if you've realized, but this family was organized around a man in the first generation. That's what you see as an orange square. 4 women he had children with, and then we have 5 generations. Let's now have a look at the different patterns. What's the first one? Well, this was a patrilinear society. Why? How do we know this? If you try to connect individuals in the later generations with the first generation, they're always connected through a chain made up of men. So we don't have transmission through women. What this means is that one of the main reasons to be buried in this tomb was that you need to be able to have a connection with individuals of the first generation through a line of men. Secondly, let's see who were these 3 men that we see here with an arrow. The mothers were women that had children with this man or some of his children, and we know that because his children are buried there. And who were their fathers? Well, they were not buried in there. What's our hypothesis? Our hypothesis is that the men in this tribe, both the main one and his children, adopted the children that they had had with other women, and this gave them the right to be buried there as their biological offspring. And this made the tribe grow faster. You have your biological offspring and your step children as well that are buried with you. These are hypotheses. Of course, there's another possibility. I don't know if you've realized. And it's that the men in this tribe didn't know that these were not their biological children. And they thought they were, and this gave them a right to be buried there. In this case, it would be women who would have had sex with other men. The problem is that we never know what they knew or what they didn't know about. They took this to their graves. We don't know what they actually knew. Thirdly, let's look at the women that were buried there. We have 3 women that you see in the first generation, and then the woman we see in the second generation on the right-hand side in blue. These are women that don't have ancestors in the tomb and that come from other communities to reproduce, to have children with the men in the tribe, with the patriarch or other men. And then we have women in green and blue who are actually offspring of this tribe, but who died at an early age. So we lack here a whole group of his family. Who were they? Well, the adult daughters. There's an absolute absence of them. These reproductive unions or bonds that we see here, they have to have daughters as well because their sons are there, buried there, and the probability is 50-50, but we don't have any of the daughters buried here. What's our hypothesis in this case? Well, it's that if they died at an early age, they were buried here. Daughters were buried there with their parents, fathers and brothers, but as soon as they came to a reproductive age, when they were 15, they had to leave their family and go and live in different communities, and they will be found in other burial mounds in the nearby area with their reproductive partners and with their children. So finally, let's have a look at where these individuals were buried. Well, we see that in the right-hand side, led by the two women of the first generation, and all their descendants, they're all buried in the southern chamber, whereas the patriarch and the two women in the first generation on the left-hand side, and most of their offspring, they're buried in the northern chamber. What does it mean? It means that this family, through the generations, remembered which was the woman in the first generation they were born from. And so in spite of the fact that they were a patrilinear society, they had the memory. Women were still there even 5 generations later, probably after the women the first generation had died. I think that the example of the Hasseltons is very nice because it gives us an idea of the deep level of detail we can get using these techniques. It opens a window in the family life of a community that died 6 billion years ago. They would have never imagined that now in 2023 we'd be talking about all family issues. This is a dream for archaeologists, historians, anthropologists, linguists, for all of us who study our past. Thank you very much indeed.